Welcome back to the Spirit, Mind and Soul podcast. Today I'm speaking with a fellow Scottish woman. I'm speaking with Laura. Laura is a chakra coach. If you don't know what the chakras are, I'm sure many of you do. Don't worry, Laura will explain all about it. It's something I'm familiar with because the first time I ever worked with a coach, we worked on my chakras, which is basically energy points in your body. So, like I said, Laura will explain more about that. But before she does, she'll be explaining her childhood, her upbringing, and she actually has a very tough, challenging life is very hard for her. We're talking about drug addiction. She had a mother who was an alcoholic. We're talking about an abusive relationship here as well. So it is really heavy stuff. It does have a happy ending, but just to warn you, we are going deep here and it's pretty heavy. If you're new here, hello, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, but there's many more. You can take a good scroll back and you'll find many episodes with empowering women and some men as well, who are also sharing their stories of hardship and challenges, but who did see the light at the end of the tunnel and how they got there as well. Hopefully, these episodes give you inspiration, empowerment, and hope. But for now, here is Laura's story. Hello, Laura. I'm so glad you're here. A fellow Scot as well.
I
I know
know.
you're up a bit more northern than me. But yeah, lovely to have you here and chatting with you today. I can't wait to talk more about the chakra systems because it's a subject that I've worked with before and I'm really interested in. I know that people listening will get a lot from this as well, this conversation. Before we delve into the chakras, though, Laura, we've obviously spoken before. You told me about your journey and your childhood and what led you into this type of work. So, can we go back there? Can we talk about childhood and the challenges that you faced, and yeah, essentially what led you into your spiritual awakening and overcoming those hard times?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to start off by saying it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you, Karen, and it is lovely to be chatting with a fellow Scot. But yeah, I grew up, I'm like everyone, I don't know anyone that hasn't had some kind of trauma or issues growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's to do with the generational conditioning, that their
Yeah.
parents and stuff came from. But I grew up, my mum um, had a drinking problem. She was like a kind of a binger alcoholic. So she would drink when my dad was away offshore. And then he'd come home and, he would get her sobered up and stuff. And when I was young, I always knew there was something up. Over the years, her drinking progressed a little bit. And by the time I got to being a teenager, I didn't fully understand it because I didn't, I didn't have emotional maturity.
Mm.
And the way I saw it as a teenager, I was quite angry with it because I saw that she was choosing this substance that didn't make her happy over her family. But I didn't understand that she had her own emotional trauma and things that she'd grown up with and experienced. And back in those days, well, people weren't encouraged to speak about their trauma and their emotions. That was pushed down inside. You don't talk about that, and that's the generation she came from. So I now understand that she used alcohol as a way to deflect her pain, not have to deal with it. But it obviously caused its own its own amount of certain trauma and negative conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So as a teenager, full of rage and not understanding it, I just wanted to be not in the house with her. I looked and appeared much older than my age, and that let me run with the older kids. And the older kids were doing what older kids do, experimenting and, trying whatever. And I followed the crowd. They let me join in. And by the time I was 16, I found myself in a relationship with someone 12 years older than me, and he was a heroin dealer. I then had a 2-year addiction with heroin, but luckily enough, I got out of it at 18. My parents had moved away. My dad had took early retirement and moved away from our hometown back to where he was from, which was a blessing. So when everything kind of went, sideways for me, I moved back in with them, which was an hour away from where I'd been living. And that's where, I got clean really quick, 10 days. I really, went for it, was focused, determined. I knew that the physical addiction symptoms would only last 10 days, so I just focused.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
It's amazing that you can. I didn't know that, and I think that just shows the mindset as well of, if you have that belief that you can overcome something, especially in a certain amount of time, and that belief will serve you well. That belief will get you through. Yeah, that's amazing.
So the physical symptoms leave you, like the withdrawal symptoms, the physical dependency that your body has on any substance lasts for 10 days. The psychological damage and emotional, that's a lot longer. But anyway, that's further down the line. So I went to college. I studied beauty and complementary therapy. And that was my introduction into energy work. I loved the beauty side, but I really enjoyed the massage, aromatherapy, reflexology. And that was when I first kind of really opened up to zone therapy, our energy systems. But still, it was there. I was interested in it. But I see how it was a seed planted at that time. So after college, I left after 3 years. I went up to the Highlands and I got a job at Skibo Castle, where Madonna got married. That's what most people recognise Skibo from. Right. And I ended up becoming spa manager and had a brilliant time, was back on form, was back to my best, or so I thought. And like I said, I'd done the physical healing, but I hadn't really went in and done any work on the emotional trauma and stuff that I had picked up through life. So fast forward a few years, I get into another relationship, and this person was one of my best friends, but I thought it was a safe option, not realizing I was still attracting someone because I wasn't whole inside. This relationship ended up, I became more mentally manipulated. And by the end of that 6 years, I'd lost myself more than when I was a heroin addict. And I knew something wasn't right. And it was just like, why does this keep happening? Why am I in this mess? I didn't attract this. And then that's when the universe went, right, here you go. So the relationship ended and I was catapulted into non-physical energy and healing. So that's when I first had encounters with Reiki, and I knew there was just this calling inside me. So I went and studied my Reiki. I had a brilliant Reiki master, and I kind of raced through that. It was over the course of a year that I did my Reiki 1, 2, and then masters. I also studied crystal healing at the same time. And over the course of 3 years, I started really studying my journey through life. And as I was working with the chakras, they just opened up this whole new way of healing that allowed me to join the dots of my life experience. Like literally each chakra governs a main area, a main concern. It then has specific negative emotions attached to it. So then I started looking at my life experiences and thinking, oh, well, I adopted a belief system of fear around this area. I see how this particular negative belief that I've been carrying was created from particular experiences. So
Mm-hmm.
as I was studying myself, I awakened, and I say awakened because I wasn't learning, I was remembering. That's exactly
Mm-hmm.
what it felt like this old knowledge that was stored deep inside me from
Mm-hmm.
past lifetimes was coming back to life.
Yeah.
And it helped me make complete and utter sense of everything. My mum's conditioning, how it had then led me on to follow in certain things. And although I inherited like an addiction gene from her, I then got this whole other strength from my dad
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the reasons that allowed me to heal and have this elevated awareness of what was going on. Then I was able to view my mum through different eyes. For the first time, it was seeing her as someone who was broken inside herself, but she unfortunately didn't have the tools
Mm-hmm.
that I was lucky enough to have been given. So
Mm-hmm.
that then opened up my awareness. It was like giving me a bird's eye view, and I was allowed to see lots of different situations from multiple points of view that I couldn't see at the time.
Yeah. You'd said that you went on a non-physical healing journey. What does that mean?
Okay, so for that, I mean, we're physical beings. So before,
Mm-hmm.
when I was doing massage, I was starting to heal people on a physical level.
Okay.
But as I was touching them, I was tuning into deep emotional issues that had happened in my clients' life in childhood. I was like, I was saying things to them and they'd be like, how did you know that? And it was like, I can feel it from you. Or as I
Mm-hmm.
was massaging, I would get images in my mind's eye that was showing me things they'd been through. And then when I went into Reiki, so that's what I mean by non-physical energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
feeling energy. So
Mm-hmm.
feeling the emotions,
Yeah.
feeling people's mental thoughts. And I didn't know the name for it at the time, but the gift that I have is clairsentience. So I have this ability when I connect with people, when they allow me to connect with them, I just know things. It's an inner knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And it can come through, it's a really hard one to put into words, like people who are clairvoyant, they see things very clearly. I just start to develop this inner knowing, and from the feeling of knowing, images will then come to support that. Or I'll
Mm-hmm.
start to hear specific things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I remember one time giving someone Reiki and all I could hear was starry, starry night, starry, starry night, starry, starry
Mm-hmm.
night. And it was going over and over until I said, okay, I hear you. And at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the session, when I gave this information back to the client, she said, that's the song that my granddad used to always sing to me when I was sat on his knee.
Mm-hmm.
And it tied back to a particular point in this person's childhood, and that was significant for them. That was a sign for them in that moment that they were protected, comforted, and watched over for a particular situation. And that's something that I could have never known.
Mm-hmm.
So this was how energy, non-physical energy, started to work through me. And as I went on and developed how I do energy healing with people, most of my sessions are done over distance. So I use my body as a surrogate to tap into them, which gives me access to their higher self and sometimes to trauma and particular experiences and conditions they've had in life that they've even forgot about. So it's like this direct access. It's like tuning in a radio, if you like, and I
Yeah.
can then start to listen to their higher self, and I'm being guided to help them bring to the surface the main root, the main cause of negative conditioning that they've experienced in life. And not just the conditioning, but then the limiting beliefs that they have created in their subconscious as a result. And by me receiving this information and being able to relay it back to the client, they are then able to see a particular label or story that they've associated with themselves. They're then able to see it's not actually their attachment. It's a condition, it's an experience that they've adopted from the life experience they've had.
Yeah, like a perspective of the world, but it's just their perspective. It's not necessarily reality.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
like
their reality.
For example, someone could have grown up maybe hearing a parent say, let's just pick money, it's a really good one, and lots of people will have grown up with this. What do you think this is? Money doesn't grow on trees. Who do you think you are? That kind of thing. That's not for people like us. So you hear these stories. Now, most of us can relate to hearing things like that from our parents. But they heard it from their parents. So this is not actually our story, but we adopt it as ours. We adopt it as ours because we've heard it over and over again. So we then adopt this story as our belief, as our truth. That then becomes part of our energy. All energy sends out a signal constantly.
Yeah, and your subconscious mind looks for the evidence that it's true and it will find it.
Absolutely. So when you grow up hearing these kind of stories and then you go and ask your parents, oh, could I have this? And they say no. Oh, why not? Oh, we don't have money for that. That then becomes your truth. Oh, we don't have money for that. I don't have money for that. So as you're growing up, you're looking at things and think, oh, I don't have the money for that. I don't have the extra for that.
It's so frustrating to hear. I know, it's a block, isn't it? So we end up as adults with money blocks often. And unless you do the work around those money blocks, because having overcome those money blocks, everything you've just mentioned was my experience as well, taking on my parents' belief about money and the lack of.
Yeah, lack mindset.
And it's very frustrating now when you hear it and you see it and you hear mum say, oh, we can't afford that. And I think, stop telling yourself that story. It's just, because it's just, then children take that on. And I do believe we're the generation that are breaking those patterns though.
Absolutely. I mean, you can see it all over the world. There is a huge awakening going on right now that's forcing people to now examine these false beliefs that they've carried. Like, for me personally, when I'd got to the end of that 6-year relationship, a big thing for me was I knew when I said yes to the dealer boyfriend that it was a decision I shouldn't have been making. I knew when I said yes to getting in a relationship with someone who was a very dear friend, but I didn't feel an intimate connection with, that it was something I shouldn't be doing. But I felt that was a safe option. I thought, oh, I've never tried a relationship from this angle before. This person thinks the world of me. I can't possibly get hurt. So I actually said yes to that relationship from a place of fear, because I was scared of being hurt or manipulated again, but I attracted exactly what I was fearing because that was the energy signal I was sending out. And when I got to the end of that relationship, a big thing for me was I had to understand why. I had to understand why I was making choices I knew weren't right for me, but there was this inner, like, compulsion, if you like, that I had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand now it was so that I could then break everything down, dissect it, make sense of it, because this is now my gift. I've helped people stop these negative hamster wheel cycles.
Yeah.
Why does this keep happening? You know, how many people have the same negative type of relationship? Oh, I've got another boyfriend like this. Oh, I've picked another partner like this. Or even go into work. People will go into a workspace and they, oh, great. Oh, I'm being bullied at work. Why do I keep attracting these situations? And they might leave that place of work to get a new job only to find the same circumstances and situations are having a negative impact on them. It's the same situation, different faces, different places. That's how I like to say it. And it literally is the energy that we're carrying and the beliefs we have attached to it. So until, like you said, we go in, do the inner work to find out where this blockage is in our system, these patterns will continue to repeat themselves. And there are so many people now going, right, wait a minute, this isn't right. And I think for a lot of people, that's the first nudge they get. Wait a minute, this is happening again. Why is this happening again?
Yeah. So can you let us know once you did the work on your chakra systems, what was the change? What was like the before and after? How did that shift your energy, shift your perspective, your outlook, and what you started to attract?
Okay, when I started really working on my chakra system, I started getting these nudges, like I was aware that your root chakra, the first of our chakras at the base of the spine, it governs what we need for human survival. So food, shelter, safety, protection. It governs your family unit and also your extended community. So the biggest blockage associated with that would be fear. From fear, you have things like anger, control. That would be negative aspects of it. So I then started to look at my life and go, oh, okay. Well, where did I have fear growing up? How did it show up for me? And I'd started to piece the dots together. This then showed me very clearly, I was scared I didn't feel fully protected from my mum. So I was then seeking this protection and also, I suppose, love in a sense from outside of myself. But because I was doing it from a place of fear, I kept attracting more situations that would give me more fear. So when I started to understand things from this way, and I could connect how my thinking was associated with it, it allowed me to then go, right, okay, that isn't something that I need to be afraid of now. I can now take my power back from there. So I would then use that as a basis to begin rewiring my belief system to how I wanted life to be. And from there, and then I worked through all the emotions. It's like, okay, where did unworthiness come into things? Where did I lack self-confidence? Where was I lacking in love? And it did require a whole amount of honesty on my part. And the biggest thing, it required me to take responsibility for all the choices I'd made. Because as soon as I did that, I stepped out of victim mode and I was able to then take back control. The victim's the negative archetype of the root chakra, and the victim can only survive in a state of fear. The positive archetype of the root chakra would be Mother Earth, and she knows that all our needs are met and provided for. The abundance, everything that we need is already here. It's here for us. We don't have to create anything out of thin air. It's all here. So I would then look at myself and say, okay, where am I not in alignment with those beliefs? And I would start directing myself towards the positive archetype of each chakra, using the symptom signs that go with it. Okay, there's jealousy showing up here. Where's that coming from? How can I transmute that negative energy and turn it to the positive, which would be my sovereign being, the divine empress within? So once I started aligning my physical self, my mental self, meaning my thought forms, and my emotional body, how I feel about things, and I started going in the direction of the aligned positive archetype, I then the fear started to fall away. Anything that had held me in the energy of feeling unworthy, that began to fall away. I'd always been very confident growing up, but because of certain situations, there was a bit of kind of, I suppose, imposter syndrome going on, or I was able to hide when I wasn't feeling confident. But then my natural state of confidence would begin to come back. So when we start addressing all of the negative aspects and saying, okay, I suppose this is a good way to put it. If where we're at right now is operating from a negative point, and where we want to get, so that's point A, and the point we want to get to is point B, aligned with the positive archetype. What do I then need to change in me to go from here to here? And that became my point of focus. And I would then do that for each of the 7 major chakras. It's not a case of you just do it once. We heal in layers. So, and the biggest, most obvious things are what we start on. So as I started stripping away the main layers of fear, then the littler ones would show up and it would, oh, right, now I know what to do. So the chakra system really became it's a guiding tool. Within us, it holds all of the negative things you will have experienced and how you've experienced it. But then you have the positive alignment. So it's like turning your inner compass from the negative to the positive and saying, okay, well, what do I need to do to get from here to here? And then it was trial and error. Using different modalities, sorry.
No, it's okay, Laura. I was just going to say, I think it's worth mentioning because we're talking about the chakra system, which I know we'll talk about, each one going up to the crown chakra just to get just to learn and get a better understanding of them. I think when some people hear the word chakra, because I guess that's the label that we give it, but it's really just energy points in the body where these energies and these emotions, they don't go anywhere. If we don't address them, they're trapped in the body. And
that's exactly right.
That's what these points, it's energy points in the body. We've got obviously our throat chakras. Well, I mean, they're all important, but heart chakra, throat chakra. But I just think it's just worth mentioning because sometimes people hear that word chakra and they can dismiss it, or people don't they can maybe disregard it as something woo-woo, but actually it's just energy points in the body where emotions are trapped, where we get blocks, energy blocks, and I have experienced when my crown chakra is burst wide open, it's like a natural high for me. I just feel high on life. You know what I'm talking about. And when I feel maybe I've got blocks in my root chakra, life feels a bit heavy. I feel a bit stuck. Would that be right?
Yeah. Well, would you like me to give a brief explanation for your listeners? Yeah. Okay. So the word chakra comes from Sanskrit.
Okay.
Sanskrit is to do with Hindi religion.
Okay.
And it basically means wheels or discs of light. So that's what our chakras are. They are energy centers within the body that govern specific types of energy. Now, when we are in a state of alignment, our chakras resonate at their optimal frequency. They are the points in our body that allow subtle life force energy to flow to and through us. And that's exactly how energy is always in a state of motion. So it should always be moving.
Yeah.
So it flows to us when our chakras are aligned. That energy will flow to and through us. When we have a negative experience, any kind of, it could be something that causes fear, worry, doubt, just somebody coming up and giving you a scare. What happens in that moment, that emotion that you feel in energetic terms, it doesn't then flow through us. It comes in and we shut ourselves down. That negative response then becomes trapped. But because energy must be in a constant state of motion, it's one of the universal laws. It doesn't just come in and do nothing. That negative energy then starts to resonate within us, altering our point of attraction, our energetic frequency. And you mentioned it earlier on, we then start attracting more things to back up that belief. And the more we have, the stronger that belief and negative energy within us becomes. And that's why then people get triggered. We all have heard this, the trigger response. So let's just say when you're young, you experienced somebody having a very heated argument at a young age. Say age 3. Whenever you then hear a very heated argument again, it will trigger that same sense of fear within you. Subconsciously, you're reliving that negative experience and it's building on that blockage and all of the beliefs you created. And so I'm not safe. I have to be spared right now. You go into fight or flight. So all of those things then become a triggering response. And unless it's addressed, we live with it and it builds and builds and builds. So each one of our 7 major chakras will hold these negative energy responses. And that then affects us. So they're energy points.
And so the work that you do with people, you work on clearing each chakra and you work with each one. It's important to work with each one so that there's complete alignment there.
Yes.
And from the root all the way up to the crown chakra. So what happens once you've cleared them, when you work with people, what are the transformations that you see? So I've done this type of work before, so I know I've felt the personal breakthroughs and realizations and then the sudden shift in perspective. It was an amazing experience for me, and it's still work that I feel that I do now. I always, like I just said, sometimes I can tell if my crown chakra is clear. I feel it's like a natural high for me. I feel like I've got one foot on earth and one foot who knows where, and I'm just life just feels like it's meant to feel for me. If I know that my throat chakra is maybe a bit blocked, or my heart, or my root chakra, one of the lower chakras, life feels heavy. I feel very stuck. I don't feel good. I feel out of alignment. I guess talk us through what the work you do then and the transformations that people have afterwards, that the sort of before and after.
Okay. Basically, when they're out of alignment, life's a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
It feels hard. You feel like you're pushing, like you're having to hustle. And sometimes it can feel like no matter how hard you try, you're not getting anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
When our chakras are in their optimal state of alignment, we are in our natural balanced state. So life becomes more ease and flow. Now, that's not to say that we don't then have to still deal with life's curveballs and negative situations. But when we're in that state of alignment, rather than something bad happening and it making you feel like the world is collapsing down all around you, you're able to be more in a state of, okay, I wasn't expecting this to happen right now, but this is a challenge I can arise to. You know, I will find a solution to get through this, rather than being, oh my God, what's happening? I don't know what to do. Everything, you know, like just, oh my God, because that's what happens to so many people.
Yeah.
You know,
And
but for for all of my clients, the transformation that happens is they start to become who they were meant to be. They don't have fear as they're going through life, or they don't have fear in the way that will control them and prevent them from living their life.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very good example of a client I'm working with just now. Very intelligent woman, very high up in the banking system, has had deep-rooted blocks around worthiness that then affected her confidence. She's got to the bottom of these now, and now life's opening up. Now the relationship she's having with her parents is one of ease and flow. Now the problems that she was having at work aren't happening. She's now stepping up and getting the promotions she's after. She's now getting the wage increases that she's after. All of her relationships in her life are now turning from ones of struggle and hardship to ease and flow. It's people that she wants to be around. So now she's inviting in all of the things that she wants to experience in life on her terms. Before, she was in a state of, I'm trying, and it feels like I'm getting nowhere. And this is someone who's, highly intelligent, but was still suffering, from those blockages.
Yeah.
Alignment is the state that we're meant to be in. Life's meant to be this beautiful balance. It isn't meant to be constant hardship and pain and struggle.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
So it turns everything around. There's just absolutely nothing there's no area of life that won't be elevated and uplifted when you choose to do this work.
And some people even listening, because I've like I say, I've gone through, worked with my chakras and done a lot of mindset work on my beliefs as well, on blocks. So there's definitely a before and after for me. And if someone had told me 15 years ago that I had never heard of any of this, so if someone had told me, I would have thought, yeah, that's never gonna work for me. Nothing's gonna change for me. This is just the way my life is. That would have been my response back then. So I feel like I'm in a place where I can say that anyone can change. Like those thoughts that come in and say, yeah, well, that won't happen for me, or I'm not worth, I don't deserve that happiness, that things like that just don't happen for people like me. That's just a belief. And because you feel that heaviness in your body and the sadness or the anger or the fear, it's just a result of your thoughts. So you can change, you can clear your chakra system, you can change your thoughts, you can shift your perspective, change your beliefs, and your body will change with it.
Everything changes with it. Absolutely. They really are, they are our inner guidance system.
Yeah.
To every area of life that you can think on, it relates back to the chakras. They all form at different stages of life as well. So our root chakra is the first one to develop. It develops between the age of 0 and 6. So deep-rooted fear, you can tie that back to things you've experienced roughly between that age bracket.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by it being this inner stepping stone. And we all have the same energy centers. They all govern the same areas. But what blocks your chakra, your root chakra, or any of them, will be different to the experiences that cause blocks in mine. And this is why I love it so much, because healing has to be done on this personal level. The healing that we all need must be done in relation to the life that we've led so far, the experience and the conditions that we've been subjected to. And that's the other beautiful thing about this system. You can say, okay, well, what was happening in my life at this age bracket? How did that impact me? How, did these situations make me feel safe and secure? Do I feel like I came from this loving family unit that offered me the protection and nourishment I needed? And if the answer is no, then we go, okay, this wasn't my fault. That's the first thing. Taking responsibility, but recognizing none of it was our fault. Okay, so what was my experience? What did that make me believe? I believed I wasn't safe because of X, Y, and Z. That I now have the power to change that, because that's not where I am now. And when you understand that negative situation that created the limiting belief, that's where our power is, because then we can say, okay, I have a choice now. I can choose to continue believing this old story that I adopted as my truth, or I can choose to say, well, this is the truth I want to live in. I want to live in a reality where I do feel safe and protected and provided for. Or this is the story I want to create from my family unit. So then you say goodbye to the old, because that was in the past. And then you put your focus and direction on creating this new strong foundation. And with the strong foundation, energy foundation, has to come strong mindset beliefs, because that's what keeps us there.
So how can people come and find out more about working with you, more about your work? I know you're on social media, you're on YouTube as well.
I am on YouTube. There's not a huge amount up on the channel yet, because YouTube's been a new channel that I've started this year. But there's Facebook, Laura Morrice, the Chakra Coach.
I'll leave that below. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get the links below. There's also my website, there's Instagram, and there's YouTube. I have started a new it's a free weekly newsletter, and it's called Chakra Power for Aligned Leadership. So each week it's taking all of my 20 years experience and more, covering how to work with the chakras from so many different angles. So it's governing, what they are, what they do, how we can get into alignment. There's different tools and techniques. So it really is just a plethora of information, everything and anything that I have on chakras, going out in this free newsletter to help people, start putting practical tools and application into practice, but also helping them to start understand their energetic makeup. Because it all, if we can understand how our life has conditioned us in certain ways, we can change that.
Yeah.
That's the power each and every one of us has. We can change all of the negatives. And not only can we change the negatives, from my experience, when you start to go back through your life, and analyze the negative experiences and the conditions, you actually uncover superpowers that you've gained because of the hardships you faced.
Mm-hmm.
You know, me having to gauge my mum and on my not so nice boyfriend's emotional states, it means that I know how people are really feeling, regardless of what they say or do. I'm really good at reading people, you know, from all angles, physical, mental, and emotional. And yes, some of that is my gifts for this life, but those gifts were amplified because of these particular negative experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's true of everyone. There's a superpower to be gained from each negative experience that has dramatically impacted us. So we don't just have to look at how something has negatively impacted us. There's always the flip side. That's the law. That's another universal law, the law of polarity.
Yeah.
There's the two ends of the stick, you know, there's day, there's night, there's dark, there's light, there's good, there's bad. And you can take that across the board with everything. So having these elevated points of awareness not only gives you a greater understanding about yourself, but it creates an elevation in emotional intelligence, not just with you, but you can then have that with the other people in your life.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks so much for sharing it. I've loved this. I've loved hearing you talk about the chakras and the chakra system. And yeah, I think there was so much value in what you shared today. So thanks so much. I do encourage everyone to come over and have a look. I know I see you on Facebook, and I know you're always sharing lots and you're always on there. So I do encourage people to come and follow you on Facebook. And all links, your newsletter, will all be in the link below. So thank you again, Laura. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed listening to Laura's story. I know that was a hard one for me to listen to because we know that these things go on in life, that people do have these type of hardships and challenges. So no matter where you are in your own journey, I hope Laura gives you hope and inspiration and empowerment that you can come through the other side. All details on how to work with Laura are in the description below. You can even go along and just follow her on social media, find out more about the chakra systems and how they assist us working with the chakras, assist us in our healing and our growth. I'd love to know your feedback if you enjoy these type of episodes. Feel free to leave a comment below and hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much again for your support, your likes, your comments, your feedback, subscribing. It is greatly appreciated from me. And I'll see you next time.